I do want to bring you a piece of news that I think is really worthwhile and good. So, a bunch of people who I am personally friendly with have decided that they are going to launch a new university. I think this is great. To understand why, you have to understand that right now universities are largely a scam. Unless you're in an engineering program, unless you're in science, technology, engineering, and math, universities are basically a scam. According to a piece by Preston Cooper in the Wall Street Journal, college is expensive, but worth it. Or is it? College graduates generally make more money than those without a degree. But a closer look reveals that for many, the benefit is not spread equally, and a significant minority of students are worse off for having gone to college. In a report for the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity, I calculated the return on investment for nearly 30,000 different bachelor's degree programs. I estimated the median lifetime earnings for graduates of each program based on Education Department and census data, subtracted tuition costs and wages missed while enrolled. I then compared that number with a scenario in which those students didn't attend college, using the earnings of high school graduates as a baseline, and then adjusting for demographics, cognitive ability, and family background. As a result, I was able to compare the net boost in lifetime earnings students got from each college degree. The results show that 28% of college degrees, so almost a third, weighted by enrollment, do not have a net positive return. More than a quarter of students are in programs that are actually a net loss for them. Those students often obsess over where they get in. Majors have the most sway over future earnings, right? I've talked about this at length. Whenever people say that there is a racial differential in college graduates and earnings, you have to adjust for the majors. Black students tend not to major in engineering as much as Asian students, for example. So you're going to get a wide variance in terms of earning potential. Somebody with an education degree does not earn the same as somebody with an engineering degree. Programs in engineering, computer science, economics, and nursing all yield a high return, often increasing their students' net lifetime earnings by $500,000 or more. But a majority of programs in art, music, philosophy, and psychology leave their average students financially worse off. So, if you were given the financial choice between going to a college and majoring in philosophy and not going to the college and getting a job, you are better off, in all likelihood, not going to college. A majority of those programs leave average students financially worse off. Some students defy averages, of course. There are some music majors who will get rich and some engineers who will fail. But that is not the average. One of the nation's highest return programs is the computer science major at Harvard. That degree has an expected value of more than $3 million. But attending the nation's most elite school is no guarantee of financial security. Harvard's ethnic and gender studies program leaves its students worse off by about $47,000 on average, according to these estimates. So if you majored in lesbian dance theory at Harvard, you actually lose money, because who the hell wants to hire a lesbian dance theory major from Harvard? Besides major, another important factor for negative return is low completion rates. If a student graduates in 4 years, the increase in earnings is usually enough to justify the costs of college. But if you take 5 or 6 years to graduate, then the cost of tuition and time spent out of the labor force start to add up. If you fail to graduate at all, you're stuck with most of the cost of college but few of the benefits. And by the way, there's a huge dropout rate at America's universities. So if you look at the full cost of education, so not just the education, but also all of the other costs, like the subsidies that colleges pay for student education, the share of bachelor's degrees programs with negative returns is all the way up to 37%. So almost 4 in 10 bachelor's degrees are worth less than the money spent on the degree. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, it means that we need to radically change how education is done in the United States. It means that the promise of university is basically a lie for a huge number of people. I've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm speaking as a graduate of some prestigious universities at UCLA and Harvard Law School. And as I've said, Harvard Law School is worth the money because you finish up and now you're a lawyer from Harvard, and that means you're going to make a lot of money. A poli-sci degree from UCLA, maybe it's worth the money and maybe it's not. That one is a lot more dicey. And there's a case to be made that what we really should do is move toward a system where you go directly from high school into an apprenticeship program if you want to be a lawyer, for example. Because what you actually pick up in a poli-sci program at UCLA has almost nothing to do with what you're learning in law school, at least in the first year. There's also a good case to be made that law school should be 2 years rather than 3. Okay, but credentialing has become the thing. Credentialing is a big thing in American life. And the reason for that is we refuse to look simple facts in the face. Okay, those facts include the fact that some people are smarter and work harder than others. And so instead of just recognizing that, which you can tell right out of high school, we have decided to create an ersatz method for evaluating whether people are likely to be good employees or not. So if you give me somebody, like anybody, if you give me their SAT scores and their GPA from high school, I can say with a high level of certainty whether this person will be a good employee or not. I don't need that person to go to a 4-year college to tell me that. And I especially don't need them to go waste $200,000 at a four-year college majoring in English in order to tell me whether they will be a good employee or not. In fact, I would rather hire the kid directly out of high school if they have a good SAT score and a good GPA and good values than have them go to a college where they're really just being indoctrinated into the language of wokeness. And so this is why, it's one of the reasons why I'm excited about the launching of this new university. It's called University of Austin. Pano Cantalos is the new head of University of Austin. He was the president of St. John's College in Annapolis. And it's got a lot of people who I think are just wonderful. They're launching this college. The four-year degree is not available just yet. They're going to start with some unaccredited programs. Then they're going to roll out the accredited programs in the near future. It's exciting stuff because this needs to happen. Competition is the way forward here. Pano Cantalos writes, so much is broken in America, but higher education might be the most fractured institution of all. There's a gaping chasm between the promise and the reality of higher education. Yale's motto is Lux et Veritas, light and truth. Harvard proclaims Veritas. Young men and women of Stanford are told, Die Luft, die Freiheit weht, the wind of freedom blows. These are soaring words. But in these top schools and in so many others, can we actually claim that the pursuit of truth remains the highest virtue? Do we honestly believe that the crucial means to that end, freedom of inquiry and civil discourse, will prevail when illiberalism has become a pervasive feature of campus life? The numbers tell the story as well as any anecdote you've read in the headlines or heard within your own circles. Nearly a quarter of American academics in the social sciences or humanities endorse ousting a colleague for having the wrong opinion about hot-button issues like immigration or gender differences. Over a third of conservative academics and PhD students say they had been threatened with disciplinary actions for their views. 4 out of 5 American PhD students are willing to discriminate against right-leaning scholars, according to a report by the Center for the Study of Partisanship and Ideology. The picture among undergrads is even bleaker. In Heterodox Academy's 2020 Campus Expression Survey, 62% of sampled college students agreed that the climate on their campus prevented students from saying things they believe. Nearly 70% of students favor reporting professors if the professor says something students find offensive, according to a Challey Institute for Global Innovation survey. The Foundation for Individual Rights in Education reports at least 491 disinvitation campaigns since 2000, roughly half successful. The reality is that many universities, writes Pano Cantalos, the new head of University of Austin, he says, the reality is that many universities no longer have an incentive to create an environment where intellectual dissent is protected and fashionable opinions scrutinized. The priority at most other institutions is simply to avoid financial collapse. They're in a desperate contest to attract a dwindling number of students who are less and less capable of paying skyrocketing tuition. Over the last 3 decades, the cost of a degree from a 4-year private college has nearly doubled. The cost of a degree from a public university has nearly tripled. The nation's students owe $1.7 trillion in loans. And by the way, nearly 40% of people who are pursuing a college degree don't get one. Okay, so to go back to the stats, that means that 40% of people who pursue a college degree are out. Of the remaining 60%, about 1/3 are going to spend more money on the college degree than the degree is worth. So that means college is a really, really bad bargain at this point. So, say the folks at University of Austin, as I write this, I'm sitting in my new office in balmy Austin, Texas, where I moved 3 months ago from my previous post as president of St. John's College in Annapolis. I'm not alone. Our project began with a small gathering of those concerned about the state of higher education. Niall Ferguson, Barry Weiss, Heather Hying, Joe Lonsdale, Arthur Brooks, and I. And we have since been joined by many others, including the brave professors mentioned above, Kathleen Stock, Dorian Abbott, Peter Boghossian. We count among our numbers university presidents, Robert Zimmer, Larry Summers, John Nunez, Gordon G., leading academics, Steven Pinker, Deirdre McCloskey, Leon Cass, Jonathan Haidt, Glenn Lowry, Joshua Katz, Vicky Sullivan, Jeffrey Stone, Bill McClay, and Tyler Cowan. We're joined by journalists and public intellectuals like Lex Friedman, Andrew Sullivan, Rob Henderson, Caitlin Flanagan, David Mamet, Ayan Hersey, Ali Sorbamari, Stacey Hawk, Jonathan Rauch, and Nadine Strassen. Our backgrounds and experiences are diverse. Our political views differ. What unites us is a common dismay at the state of modern academia and a recognition we can no longer wait for the cavalry, and so we must be the cavalry. So this is really exciting stuff. It's really great. So their plan is that they are going to be moving through the next few years, beginning to launch degree programs just a couple of years from now. And honestly, like, all support to them. It's great. They're hoping by 2022 to launch a graduate program in entrepreneurship and leadership, by 2023 to launch graduate programs in politics and applied history and in education and public service, and then by 2024, just 3 years from now, to establish a full undergraduate college, which is fantastic. It's fantastic. And so I encourage everybody to go check out uaustin.org. That is the place where this is located. More of these options for our students, more of these options for our kids. Again, competition is the lifeblood of intellectual development, and I am very excited that University of Austin is launching, and congrats to all my friends who are involved with that particular effort. How's this for a title? Ben Shapiro Show subscriber destroys like button with clicks and logic. I'd watch that. Make it happen, gang.